Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Halfback Dynasty. My name is Brendan. We are joined today with our co-host Tyler, the legendary Gator Sense. Tyler, how the heck you feeling, my man?
Feeling good, Brendan. Just kind of wrapping up the workday, ready for some Thursday night football. I sent you a text. I got a couple unusual guests. I'm not in the movie room tonight, so forgive in advance if the dogs freak out. So,
Oh, no worries at all. I actually just now looking at it. So, it's crazy, with the puppos is that we don't have Winnie. She's getting dropped off, I think, in like 30 to 40 minutes. We haven't seen her in like 4 days. We left her at,
wow,
the grandparents' place. So she's about to be wilding when she sees Scotty and I. So we'll see what
she'll be
happens.
bouncing off the walls, man, for sure.
Yep. I'm hoping the episode gets done before then because I promise you she will knock everything over. She'll jump up. So just the way it goes, when you're a dog dad, I guess, eh?
We'll keep it short, man. That way you're ready to roll.
Yep. Cool. Well, good to see you.
Good
It's
to see you
amazing
too.
that, yeah, we're already week three. The season always goes by so quickly. We're already it's about to hit 3 games in. And I got to say that the biggest topic that I wanted to talk about tonight is the only thing people in Chicago are thinking about, trying to figure out. And that is, how can a franchise, a professional franchise, be such a dumpster fire only after 2 weeks in? For those of you who are not familiar, Chicago, the Bears are an absolute mess. I listen to the radio show 670 The Score, the Molly and Hall show almost every morning going into work. Great guys. I actually love their radio station or their show. And it just reinforces everything that you've already read on your own. Like I wake up, I check Twitter, see what's up. I check, the DLF forum, get some information. Then when you hear it out of somebody else's voice on the radio, you're like, this is really crazy, isn't it? So let me explain what's happened so far to the best of my knowledge. Their defensive coordinator missed week 2, and the team was trying to suggest for personal reasons. Turns out his home was raided by the FBI.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard that. Have you heard that?
I did not hear that.
Oh
No.
my gosh.
So,
See, I thought this was something crazy that everyone would already be
no.
well aware of. Yeah, so his home was raided by the FBI. Then everyone was kind of going crazy trying to get more information. Then people were saying Hallis Hall, kind of like the Bears headquarters, their office, practice field was raided by the FBI, which I think was proven false. Then it was told that Charles Tillman, a Hall of Fame Bears player. I
Yep,
don't, I don't
for
think
sure.
he's in the Hall of Fame, but I can't remember. Actually, I don't think he is. But
Good player,
yeah, he's a legend, in Bears history.
for sure.
He's apparently an FBI agent now, which I had no idea about. So rumor had it that he was the one who broke the news to the Chicago Bears that the FBI was raiding their defensive coordinator and Hallis Hall. Turns out he's not involved, so that's cool too. But we have no idea why his house was raided. We have no idea what's going on. The Bears organization said, he's just handling personal matters. He resigned yesterday afternoon. So
Wow.
obviously something's going down, and that's a really bad look. If you're, a new coach with a new GM, and you are essentially trying to build a franchise. Now, I don't know if you watch. Do you watch a lot of post game interviews and stuff by the players?
I do kind of throughout the week. Yeah. I mean, I pretty much focus on red zone on Sundays.
Me
So
too, brother. Hey, Red Zone
not
is
as
the best.
much there, but yeah, definitely get a little bit caught up through the week.
Okay, so I don't know if you saw Justin Fields' his post game interview, and I think he had another one, but he basically came out and tried to save face with himself because, as most of you who play Dynasty know, that Justin Fields basically has to prove it this year. If he doesn't prove it this year, he's out of Chicago. He's probably going to be in backup quarterback hell, which it's an endless merry-go-round, and he's not going to get paid. So he came out and said that he feels very robotic out there, and he feels like the
Oh, yeah.
coaching team is not playing up to his strengths, and they're telling him all sorts of different things. Stay in the pocket, pass more, whatever it is, and it's really messing with this game. And so you have basically how I take that's like the whole Kyler Murray situation when they put that in his contract. Didn't they like suggest that he needs to like have X amount of study hours or something in his contract?
I thought there was a couple weird points in there for sure.
So that's building distrust between the franchise to Kyler
Sure,
Murray. Now, this is building distrust between Justin Fields and the coaching staff. And
sure,
it makes total sense because when you watch the Bears play, well, the first 2 weeks of this year, Justin Fields is nothing like he was last year. We all know his passing could be
yeah,
better. They've only had 5 designed runs for him, bro. 5 designed quarterback runs. This dude is like one of 3 quarterbacks in NFL history who put up over 1,000 rushing yards.
sure,
You only get him 5 designed runs in 2 weeks. And on top of that, I think what's happening is they're trying to push him to become a pocket passer. And you could tell he seems conflicted in the pocket. He's been
sure.
sacked a few times. He doesn't know if he should run the ball. So, my question to everyone who's watching this, why don't they build around his strengths, just like the previous coaching staff didn't do with him, and just like the previous coaching staff didn't do with Mitch Trubisky? You now have a whole organization where it's clear that it's messed up from top to bottom, and it doesn't matter which quarterback they bring in. The Bears could potentially ruin Caleb Williams, brother. I mean, legit, they could. So that's what's happening in Chicago. I'm furious. Let's hear an outsider's perspective.
Yeah, I think the NFL, like most leagues, is a little, I don't know if copycat's the right word, because I think sometimes, like we've seen with running back contracts, guys that get paid get hurt. It affects everybody behind them. I kind of think what Baltimore has done with Lamar Jackson, they've pretty much tailored an offense completely around him. And I think you could say at this point it's not successful. I mean, obviously they haven't won a title. I mean, he had an MVP year, but he's struggled with injuries throughout. And I'm not saying Fields is Lamar Jackson, but they're very similar players in the sense that they're both extremely athletic. They can both run. We're not sure if either one of them can really throw or throw well enough consistently. So I think maybe what's going has happened in Baltimore might be affecting Chicago a little bit. You tailor a team around a specific player, and if it doesn't work out, I mean, how much does that set you back? You look at Baltimore's offense outside of Andrews. Obviously, Zay Flowers looks good out of the gate, but they've been kind of void of big time players outside of Andrews for years because they've had a specific mold. So maybe Chicago has seen that and is maybe a little bit shy to do the same,
But do you
because like
think
Jackson, I mean, Fields has a ton of question marks. Lamar Jackson still has a ton of question marks. Lamar Jackson has been one of my favorite players since Louisville. And it's funny because my brother and I are huge fans. I still don't think he can throw, honestly. You watch some of him every week and it's like, dude's wide open, but kind of like Fields, he can lay an 80-yard bomb out there and it's just perfect. But anything, 10 yards out seems to be a stretch. So I don't know. I think it doesn't really seem like Chicago has great options. I mean, I don't know. You kind of fell into Fields in that trade at good value. So, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't try and play to his strengths, but I mean, it was funny you brought up Kyler Murray, who's been often injured and is not the same quarterback when his rushing dries up. So maybe they're trying to keep him healthy because Kyler Murray, when his rushing stalls, he's not the same player at all.
But do you think that Baltimore has given Lamar Jackson an opportunity to play to his strengths?
I think yes, but it's kind of interesting. It's only 2 weeks. I don't think so far they have at all. I remember watching the first week when Dobbins was still out there. There was multiple goal line carries that would have been Lamar Jackson's 100%, and he didn't run any of them. So uh, but the same thing maybe that they're thinking with Fields, Lamar Jackson was banged up all last year. You really can't have that early because if Jackson goes down, so does Baltimore's season. So I think rush dual threat quarterbacks are beyond important, but man, we're just seeing that they just get banged up. So, it's hard to say. So
Absolutely.
yes, I think in the past, yes, they've really allowed Lamar to do his thing, but so far, I don't think they have.
Yeah, so I think that the coaching team at least understands Lamar's game strategy, his preferred gameplay. I don't think this coaching staff for the Bears is fully invested in Justin Fields on their own. If you look
Sure.
at the last like 6, 7 years of the Bears, it's been back to back high first round picks used on quarterbacks, and the exact same outcome has happened. Basically, Fox picked Mitch Trubisky second overall. Then he was canned and out that following year.
Right.
Now you have a new coach. Matt Nagy claims that he loves Mitch Trubisky, but that wasn't the quarterback he drafted. Then
Sure.
Mitch Trubisky played for a few years. They had a really great season, actually. You know, if they didn't have, if that double doink didn't happen against the Eagles in the playoffs, who knows? They could have been a gritty team that like sneakily, advanced in the playoffs.
Well, Trubisky looked phenomenal at
He
first.
wasn't that bad. He
Yeah, he
wasn't
looked like a
that
good
bad.
player. Yeah.
But then what happens is they get into this lull where essentially they're just awful. And so then Nagy gets canned, Pace gets canned, the GM, and now they bring in Eberflus and Poles. Wait, let me back up. Let me back up. Before they brought in obviously Poles and Eberflus, Nagy and Pace drafted Justin Fields. They had 1 year with him. Let's be honest, they were going to get fired anyways. There's no way. Even
Yeah.
Fields as a rookie, like rookie quarterbacks aren't going to have winning records that often. To be quite honest with you, they were
Sure.
gone anyways. So first off, they shouldn't have even let them get to the draft. They should have fired them right there on the spot. But now they get canned after Fields' year one. The same exact path that happened with Trubisky. And now you have Eberflus and Poles who didn't draft Fields, and now they're really struggling.
Sure.
So from Fields' position, he knows that he might not be this coaching staff's guy. He might not. They're probably not super invested in him. So in his post-game interviews, he was saying that he just wants to go out there and play. He's gonna stop worrying so much about what they're
Sure.
telling him. He's gonna go out and ball. And I don't blame him because he knows if he doesn't produce or show that he is a franchise QB, he's done. But let's back it up to the organization as a whole. There's obviously a recurring issue that keeps happening throughout the last 15, 20 years. Chicago absolutely freaking loves the screen pass, bro. I don't know how that's gone from like regime to regime. Why are they throwing 15 screen passes a game? It's not 15, it's more like 10. But why are they throwing two back-to-back screen passes when they're backed up on their 10-yard line, game on the line in the fourth quarter? Fields then throws a pick six. Why are you throwing a screen pass? So
Playing Madden style offense, man.
it's so frustrating. Yeah, man, so I know you throw like Hail Mary streaks every other play, and then you throw
A lot
screen
of
passes.
screens.
Yeah, it's crazy. Anyways, I obviously have a lot of built up frustration.
Sure.
I don't know what this does to Fields' value. I'm coming to a point where if he strings together a couple of good games, it honestly might be time to move him. You know, his value this offseason, he was going top 8
Yep.
overall in Superflex, and I believe it. I believe in him. I believe in his talent, but he's a
Sure.
player that could sink quickly in Dynasty.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you and I have talked about it for years on here. It's a stock market. That's the reality of dynasty football. There's times to move, there's times to hold, and there's times to go out and get players. And yeah, I mean, Fields was one of those really hyped players, and yeah, he's struggled out of the gate. So um, I think he's a hold right now, but yeah, if he has a couple of those games where he rushes for 130 yards and his stats are inflated, yeah, I say it all the time on DLF. It never hurts to shop. You don't know what people are thinking. You don't know what offers are out there until you put people out there. So,
Yep. And sometimes it pays to sell a player at their perceived peak because you'll
sure.
never maximize that return ever again. So sorry for the frustration here with the
No,
Bears
it's all good.
organization, but we're anxiously awaiting Week 3 against the Chiefs. You know they're probably
Sure.
going to get whooped, but we better see some positive things in the game. Let's move on to a more positive note. Uh, Puka Nacua,
I
my
was waiting for it.
goodness, brother, what is going on out there in Los Angeles?
I mean, I think it's a product of, maybe he's a similar player to Cooper Cup. I mean, they force targets to Cooper Cup. Cooper Cup's obviously out. So it's really interesting. I was waiting for you to bring him up. Obviously, I didn't know you were going to, but literally every post on DLF right now is, should I sell him? Should I trade for him? I mean, there's no good answers right now. I think you hold. I think his value will, it seems crazy that it could continue to rise because I saw one person ask if they should trade an early first and super flex for him. And it's like, no, I think his stats are a bit inflated because Cooper Cup is out, but I think there's also a world where maybe Cooper Cup can stay healthy because he's not getting 40 targets a game and they can kind of divide it around. And, I think Puka can still be productive, but I think there's going to be a decent crash down when Cooper Cup gets back on the field or in general. I was really racking my brain last night. There was a guy for the Cardinals. It had to be 5, 6, 7 years ago that I was extremely high on him. I went out and got him everywhere. He came out of nowhere a little bit like Puka. He was a little bit more well known, but through the first 3 weeks, he was the number one receiver in Dynasty, like production wise, not value wise necessarily, but was the WR1 in fantasy. And I think he was out of the league in 2 years. So I'm not saying that's going to be Puka, but at some point, if the offer is good enough, I get we all have this like, oh, what if he's this guy? What if he's Justin Jefferson? Chances are he's not. Chances are he won't be. But, you know, if you can move him high. But yeah, crazy rise for a guy that probably went in fourth, fifth round rookie drafts. I mean, people that say they know who he was, I who knows, but I'm
I
not
had no
sure.
idea who he was until like
Yeah,
week one.
I'm
So
not sure we've seen a rise like this from an unknown asset or almost any asset really in quite some time.
yeah, well, let's look at his stats. He's got 25 receptions. So imagine how many targets he's gotten already as
Oh,
well.
a ton.
266 yards, no touchdown. So even if his receptions go down and he finds the end zone, I mean, his stats will average out a little bit. But I think at a certain point, I agree you have to sell. I mean, there's very unlikely this guy does what like Jefferson does, through his
Sure.
first 3 years. And who knows what happens when Cup comes back? You obviously could sell high right now, and you might regret selling high, down the line. But at
Sure.
least you just turned what was most likely your fourth or fifth round rookie draft pick into like a potential first round pick, which I mean
Yeah,
that's a win no matter how you look at it.
yeah, or a waiver claim. I mean,
Mhm.
there is that other side that, he could just be a good asset. He doesn't have to be a top 10 receiver, but if he's a top 25, that's a really good return on a waiver wire and or late round rookie pick. So
Absolutely.
again, it comes down to the return. I think earlier mid first is great return, but if you believe in him long term, then like I said, I could see that maybe this is better for the Rams, that they don't just have to let Cup go out there and get tackled 20 times a game because he's always catching every pass. So I do think there's just, like I said, a world where he can be successful, but I don't think this is sustainable I mean, most assets can't sustain this. Look at what Tyreek Hill did. Exploded in week one and then was back to being, just a typical receiver. So,
He had like
I
60 yards in a teeter though, brother.
yeah, I mean played well, but it's not sustainable.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
um
215 yards.
yeah, and I don't think what Puka's doing is sustainable, but
Hmm.
I would hold over a second right now because I truly think if he hits again this weekend, that's when you move him because
Hmm.
people are going to be going nuts. I mean, everybody's already going nuts about this kid. Like I said,
Yeah.
you log into DLF and every single post is about Puka.
Yeah, he's got a
It's
dope name
crazy.
too. He's got a name that's hard to
He
forget,
does.
man. You know?
Yeah, and it's fun. We don't often see this where it's just like this guy out of nowhere. We're so used to the same dynasty names
Mhm.
of, oh, this guy, it's fun. It's cool to see. It's exciting for him. So it's a really good story early. But like I said, I keep thinking back to the guy for Arizona that it was like, I knew this guy was going to hit. And then he was just like, he went from like 20 plus points a game. I think he had a 30, and then it was like 5, 4, 1, and it just
Mhm.
started
Just
like
stopped.
I should have moved him,
Yeah, yeah,
but none of us have a crystal ball. So
yeah. So yeah, he's out of BYU. So I'm wondering if he caught passes for the legendary Zach Wilson of the Jets. I don't
yeah,
know
I
if he
don't know if
crossed.
he was an upperclassman or not.
Mhm.
I would assume maybe he was a 4-year guy
He's
just because he
22,
wasn't
smaller college.
okay.
I don't know. It could have been.
Yeah, he was probably a 4 or 5-year guy, I would assume.
Yeah, that's super cool though. 35
It
targets,
is really cool.
25 receptions. The 10.6 yards per reception kind of give you an indicator that it's a lot of short pass work, but all it takes for
Which
him to
is
break
exactly
off.
like Cooper Cup,
The
That's
exact same.
exactly what Cooper Cup does,
Mhm.
which is they found a guy who's probably very much in the mold of Cooper Cup. And,
Mhm.
I'm not saying Cooper Cup isn't a great receiver, but
Mhm.
it's kind of like, man, I'm trying to think of a team with like a running game where it just doesn't matter who it is. All their stats are the same. They're all good. When somebody gets hurt, maybe, he's probably just a lot like Cooper Cup because when Cup gets hurt, the Rams passing game just goes way downhill. So,
Mhm.
they probably have a specific type of receiver they look for, and they probably hit on this one. So I think
Yeah.
he's a lock to be their WR2 the rest of the season, even when Cup's back. So again, that's not
Mhm.
bad production. Puka could be a really good flex all year, but
I
I
think
sure
he'll be a
wouldn't
good
want to
flex.
be trading for him like he's your WR1.
Mhm. I think it's
So,
safe to say he could be a good flex. He's already shown he can do it, and it's not like he had another stud lineup on the opposing side. He came in
yeah,
as a rookie and straight up demanded
totally.
20 targets in his first NFL game ever. With
Yeah,
really nobody else that like would take coverage away.
for
So
sure.
yeah, yeah.
And
I
on
think,
the
go ahead,
in
go
the
ahead.
same breath, I think it's kind of like when Kyle Pitts came in as the best player
Oh
ever.
gosh.
Like now is not the time to go acquire Puka.
Hmm.
Wait for Cup to come back, have a couple so weeks, and then if you still like what you see, still like the target share, go make
Hmm.
a deal for him. You might be able to get him for a mid-second at that point, but acquiring a player who's we all know the first 3, 4 weeks of fantasy every year disaster. Like to acquire somebody for an early first who we've seen play 2 games is just not. Again, you might get a guy who turns into the best receiver ever, but chances are you're going to acquire very high and it's not going to age well.
Yeah, and the
It'll be a
problem
better time to acquire Puka.
Yeah, and the problem is you can't get your money out.
Yep,
If Puka is peaking right now, you just bought at the highest point. You're not going to be
exactly.
able to get anything back. There's no insurance on him. Like if you're
Exactly.
buying like even a stud, right? Let's say you bought Justin Jefferson, who's probably going to be peaking for the next couple years. You could still sell him in like another couple years and still receive a lot of return on your investment. And
Absolutely.
it is the name of the game is buy low, sell high, right? So
Yep.
interesting to see what they do. I think, yeah, you're right. One more week shows you if he can do it or not. And when Cup comes back, I think we'll see him still get probably like 8 targets. I can see him like 4 to 5 receptions weekly. I don't think that's a bad line, but we'll see what happens. Let's push along. Another big thing that we saw was probably what will be the nastiest injury of the year. Nick Chubb absolutely blew out his knee. It just is really heartbreaking to see due to well, you don't want to see it on anyone, to be honest, but for how good of a guy he seems to be in the locker room, outside of the field, his work ethic is unmatched. He just seems like a very quiet, humble guy, and that replay was really hard to watch. And he's obviously out for the season, but I wouldn't be surprised if this just if this is just it. If his career is either done or he tries to come back, but he's not going to be full speed. He's already at that age. He's like 26, 27. I'm not sure he can bounce back from what we witnessed.
Yeah, it was absolutely devastating. I mean, I still haven't even been able to find any reports as of yesterday that they've even released fully what's happened. The only thing I've seen is that it's expected it's going to take two surgeries. So
Mm-hmm.
it's bad enough that it's going to take two surgeries. And a lot of people think maybe it's exactly what happened to him at Georgia,
Yeah, the
but
same
yeah,
thing.
for a guy that is supposed to just be a stand-up human, a great teammate, is just devastating, like you said, you don't like to see that from anybody, but there's something about like actual good people in sports that go about their business the right way, that it's just like, man, it's just unfair. And he's so good. Chubb is just been exactly what he was supposed to be. He came back from a brutal knee injury. People wondered if he could stay healthy. He did his senior year, comes out, he's behind, who was it, Hunt at that point? No,
It
it
was.
wasn't Hunt.
Oh no, it was Carlos Hyde.
Yeah, it was, yeah. And he took the job and then he just turned into what he is, one of the top backs. But yeah, I think he's almost 28. So yeah, I'm with you. I mean, even from the personal side, I mean, athletes are built much, much differently than you and I and most people. But dude, you got to be able to walk the rest of your life. You're 28 years old. Like, Chubb's made some money.
Mm-hmm.
He's had a good career. Like, is it even worth it? Like, this has now happened twice to the same knee. I can't even imagine mentally, emotionally what that does to you. Like, that's brutal, man.
I'd be scared to run the ball again.
I would too, I mean, the reality is Nick Chubb is an extremely young man
Mm-hmm.
in real life years. Like, dude, you got a lot of life ahead of you to, you're gonna want to be able to walk.
Yeah. He's my age and he's basically already like lived a full life though, in terms of, whatever
Yeah,
the conversion of uh real life age to football age,
seriously, man.
he's basically like 50 right now in terms of running back age. So it could be time
Like
to call it.
imagine at your age, had you had this happen twice. Like, could you even imagine what your leg feels like on a normal day? It can't
Flopping
be
around.
good.
Ugh,
Yeah,
I
it can't
agree.
be good.
Yeah, so we're rooting for him. I've already been, every single. Some of my leagues are they're very active, and some of them contain what I like to call businessmen. And what they do is the second they see an injury happen, they immediately throw the backup running back like on the trade block, like in the chat,
No, for
make it
sure.
well known, like,
Oh,
hey,
for sure.
Jerome Ford's available. And sometimes before I even catch the injury, I'll see that mid game, and I'm just like, damn, like Chubb's
Yeah,
got to be hurt, you know?
I I think Ford has a really, really good chance of gaining a ton of value. He played well the rest of that game, and I'm just speaking simply from fantasy. I don't know anything about real life being a good player, but Kareem Hunt was not good the last time he was on the field. There's a lot of people that are like, oh, Ford's value just dropped immensely. Who cares that they signed Nick Hunt? You have to have somebody else on your team. So
Yeah, and Kareem
I
Hunt's been
think
a free
Ford
agent
is,
all year. I don't know if
yeah,
some of these guys are just waiting for an injury, then accept
sure.
a job because
Yeah.
if you're a backup veteran at this point, the money probably doesn't mean much. You most likely, unless you get a great deal, right? A lot of them probably just want to go to a place where they can fill in
Oh, for
immediately
sure.
or try to win. Leonard Fournette's still a free agent. Melvin
Totally.
Gordon's on the practice squad. He got demoted.
Yeah.
I thought Ezekiel Elliott was going to be a free agent going into the season, right? Kareem Hunt, perfect opportunity for him, but I'm sure he's a 3 yards per carry kind of guy. And,
Yeah. And I think that's a good name you mentioned. I mean, the touches for Zeke are extremely frustrating right now, but everybody that panicked that Zeke's going to be an issue for Stevenson, Zeke looked awful on Sunday night. Zeke's
yeah,
not
he's bad.
who he was,
He looked bad
like,
last year, too.
yeah, he was. It's still Zeke. I get it. He's a Hall of Famer, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not the Zeke we've known for 4 or 5 years of domination. So I think the people that are panicking on Ford right now is a really bad choice. Ford was a very good prospect coming out, and he's finally going to get his chance. And if somebody in your league is thinking that Hunt is really going to eat into Ford, I would be acquiring Ford every league I possibly could right now.
Mhm. Yeah, I think somebody wanted a second and a third, which
Done.
it seems like what's happened now is running backs are obviously pretty sketchy because they're susceptible
Oh,
to
man.
injuries. But now what I think my strategy is, outside of the running backs I already have, I think I'm going to start targeting guys like young guys who I didn't even really care for, like Rashad
Yeah,
White, James Cook, who had pretty good outings, even though I don't think they're that good. But if I can get them for a couple second round picks or maybe a late
exactly.
first, you got to get them before you become even more desperate and before they continue to have even bigger games. I have found that the way to win leagues is using the waiver wire early on, unless you have a deep league, or making trades early on that are an investment that helps you later on in the season before you get into a pinch and before their value goes up. So I'm
Absolutely, man.
targeting James Cook, Rashad White, Jerome Ford, anybody that's somewhat cheap that I can have access now, even if I don't need to use them. I
Yeah,
guarantee you one of my running backs is going to go down later on in the season. We've already seen Eckler, Dobbins, Chubb, Barkley. It's just the nature of the game now, man.
yeah, man. And to your point, it felt a little pricey at the time, but I really liked the news out of camps on Kyrian Williams, and I moved my second for Williams and Spiller before the season started because it was like, hey, I need a little bit of running back depth. Cam Akers is not great.
Mhm.
Eckler's getting older. Like you're saying, you got to get these guys before. And obviously, I mean, we're only 2 weeks in, but I'm thrilled with getting Williams. So
Absolutely. What do
yeah,
you what do you think about the Akers trade to Minnesota?
I think I'm disappointed more as a Ty Chandler manager because I kind of thought maybe he was going to get a shot here with Madison struggling, but I look at it a bit like honestly, man, Cam Akers is not great. He's been benched twice by the team that's drafted him.
Mm-hmm.
I saw something great on Twitter the other night when I was just kind of scrolling through the trade comments. That this doesn't suddenly make Cam Akers a good running back. Everybody's like, "Oh, this is great," and sometimes a change of scene is exactly what you need. But I agree, this doesn't make Cam Akers any different than who he already was.
Mm-hmm. And his
Um,
situation in Los Angeles wasn't that bad, if we're being honest.
No, he got a ton of touches
Yeah.
before he started demanding more money, demanding trades, demanding this. Like
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't in the place to do that. I mean, it's fantastic that he came back from a brutal injury. That's what I try to focus on with Akers on the personal side is like he defied the odds to really even get to this point. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm more disappointed fantasy wise for Chandler because Madison was not doing anything with his opportunity. So it's just another horrible running back by committee team now that, we're running out of options at running back as managers of guys without a doubt are going to get touches every week.
You're just gonna have
Yeah.
to start both running backs. You're gonna have to flex one guy and then throw the
Yeah.
other one in the RB slot.
And the running backs are it's just a wasteland right now. Like I was very concerned when Josh Jacobs held out because historically, when running backs hold out, miss OTAs and training camps, they're usually a mess.
Yeah.
But Josh Jacob rushed for -2 yards last week. Like, how is that? Like, the running back position is just a disaster. It
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah. So again, here's my new strategy. I know you've shifted to focus on wide receivers, but I'm gonna focus on wide receivers. Maybe I got a couple stud running backs already on the roster, but I'm either gonna
Yeah,
trade draft stock to get the stud rookie. Like I'm still happy I have Brees Hall. He's gonna bounce back.
sure.
I got Bijan in almost every league. I got Hall in almost every league. But I'm also going to try to start trading, second round picks and
Sure.
even maybe future first, if you're allowed to trade like 2026 picks already, like things that
Right.
you can get back if you need. But I'm gonna just start buying guys that have an opportunity. And if they hit, which it seems like, again, I for some reason can only think of Rashad White and James Cook, which
Right.
seems like they have both an opportunity to finish as like a top 10, top 15 RB, which is absolutely mind blowing to me. But they're on my roster for cheap. If they don't hit,
Yeah.
I can have 2 years to go grab another 2026 first round pick if I need. So that's been my strategy recently. And every year we're gearing more towards more wideouts, less running backs is what it feels like.
Absolutely, man. And I think a lot of it comes down to format in your league, but in our big league, you've got Bijan and you only need to start one RB. I wouldn't
Yep.
be nearly as concerned about having, oh, I got to have three guys I can
Mhm.
plug in. You run Bijan hard, you start him every week, and then you load up on wide receivers and
Yep.
flex spots,
That's the
because
way.
they're
That's the
going to
way.
throw 50 times a game. We're lucky if a running back gets 15 carries now. You're excited about that. When
Yeah.
I first started in Dynasty, if you weren't getting 28 carries, you were like, oh, come on,
Yeah. 28
So
carries, 120 yards, a touchdown. So dope, dope. All right.
exactly, man.
All right. Well, I think that we'll end off on this note. I think that we need to pray that there's no running back injuries in week 3. Let's hope that everyone on the field can stay healthy. But is there anything you want to say to the homies watching this as we get ready for Sunday or Thursday night football in 30 minutes? It's crazy,
Enjoy
brother.
enjoy week 3. It's like we always talk about, man. The Dynasty season goes so fast. Before you know it, we're going to be in week 9. So enjoy it. Enjoy it while you can. Sorry, you're hearing the Huskies singing in the background here. So
It's all right. No problem at all. And yeah, my last piece of advice is go out and trade for those players that you hated before the season, but are somehow doing well now. Get them before they
absolutely.
skyrocket. So, all right, Tyler, great to see you as always. You know the drill. You're in this for life.